Welcome to AlexGs Aquarium, everybody. Today I have got a huge update because the aquarium stand top installation has been completed all the way. It's such a massive change to see plywood on the top of this tank. I've spent months stepping on the cross braces and stand legs and having to watch my step as I walk around, and it's so nice to be able to just freely walk on here. And wow, what a change and difference this makes, and just seeing the scale of how this aquarium is going to look. But I gotta say, it's everything that I was envisioning in my head, and how it's looking and coming out has just been great. In today's video, I really want to spend a little bit of time talking about the stand top installation, and specifically a lot of the preparation work that was done, because the aquarium stand top installation might seem like a pretty simple process, you know, just put plywood on top of stand, but there's actually a whole lot more to it, and if you don't take some of these steps, they might actually cause problems further on down the line in a construction process with an aquarium. So those are some of the things that I want to start off with sharing today. Now, the journey to getting the plywood stand top on the tank first starts off with the preparation step of stand alignment. Now you might be asking, why do you need to align a stand? If you built it right, shouldn't it be nice and straight? Well, yes and no. I might have cut everything to measurement, which is a very important thing, so that everything will be nice and square, but the structure for the stand is incomplete without the plywood top, and that allows for some movement to take place, partially during construction, because wood is a pliable material. It can bend, it can bow, it can twist. In assembling something this large, it's just inevitable that you're going to probably have a few alignment problems that need to be corrected. It's not a big deal, but it's a very important step, because if the stand is out of alignment and it's kind of going all over the place, when you start to do your plywood stand top installation or trying to lay anything out, you're going to find that things are out of alignment and it's not going to be square the way it needs to, and that's going to cause a big problem down the line if it's not fixed now. With a stand like this, the alignment corrections are pretty simple. I know it's nice and level, and that wasn't a concern, and there wasn't any chance it was falling over side to side or front to back. But what could happen, and was happening in the stand, is on this 30-foot long section here, is that some of the cross braces and stuff had kind of moved in and out, causing some bowing and waving in this area. Now, it was pretty easy to correct. I went down to the long axis of the tank, so this 30-foot section, and I got out my trusty laser level, and I went ahead and put a vertical line down that long axis to see how my alignment was. And I also just got down real low and just looked down that to see how my alignment was. And I went ahead and did my alignment corrections using a 10-pound sledgehammer. And you might again be thinking, why would you want to use something like this to do an alignment correction? Well, we're not talking, you know, full force swings with the sledgehammer. You're just doing some nice light taps like this. Maybe applying a little bit of force on a swing, but not much. You don't want to damage the stand, and you always want to have another piece of wood in between the stand and what you're hitting. That'll allow this to kind of take that shock, and if it's going to do any damage, it should do it to that little piece of wood. Using something heavier like this gives you a lot more mass and energy when you're hitting it and swinging it lightly, and that allowed me to just eyeball what cross braces or between what cross braces were out of alignment, and just simply go in and tap them in the direction they needed to go. Once that was completed, I was free and clear to start the next step in this process, which was actually a lot of construction, and that was adding a 2x6 perimeter edge all the way around the stand. And this is actually the first piece of the bottom of the tank being installed. It's the bottom seal beam. Originally, I was going to install this after the plywood top and the tank bottom was installed, but I started thinking about it, and this is one of the things I love about DIY and just taking your time with these builds is I started to realize that this is going to make a really nice step on the edge. And because of that, I was starting to go, well, if it's not supported underneath, it might allow things to flex. And if it's the beam holding the glass in place along with its seal, you don't want any flexing there. So that was the first concern I had. The second was behind the tank on the wall section here. I got about 18 feet of the tank. That's going to be about 6 inches away from the wall. The seal beam is going to make up most of that area. And the lower seal beam, to get it installed after the plywood was installed, would have been nearly impossible. And for those reasons, I decided to install the bottom seal beam and its bracing structure first. And I used the same method that I did to build the aquarium stand. I just cut each 2x6 leg support to be level with the floor with the 2x6 on top, and I went all the way around. One difference I did make though was on the back side of the tank. Again, you'll see there's a 1x8 sticking up, and that's because I took the 2x6, I ran it through the table saw to take 3/4 of an inch off, and I screwed and glued 1x8 onto it to make a giant L beam for each section. This is a little bit of a peace of mind type of thing. The most vulnerable part of an aquarium like this, and any plywood aquarium, is the edge of the plywood. It's real easy to seal up the top face of plywood, but the edge is the most vulnerable place where you can have water get in if it's not perfectly waterproofed. And I don't expect there to be a lot of water back there, maybe a splash or a slight spill, and that should be it. But once this aquarium's running, I won't be able to get back there unless I'm in the tank, and even then, I'm not going to be able to get back to that part of the seal beam and the plywood layers underneath. Therefore, that 1x8 is going to be a fascia board for all of them, and I'll be able to epoxy and maybe fiberglass them all in. Also, the 1x8 is a little bit taller than the seal beam that's going in there, and because of that, I'm going to be able to have a little bit of a lip and kind of a trough between the glass and the edge of the seal beam, which will allow any little spills or splashes to get contained there and not just fall behind the stand onto the wall or anything. So that's just another little peace of mind thing where once it's done and the tank's running, I won't be able to get back there, at least in any usable way. So it's very important that I get this done now. You can see that there's some black coloring on the top of it, and that's because I've gone ahead and used 2 coats of Pond Armor epoxy to get that leading edge and the back edge, because once it was installed, you couldn't do anything else. Now once that perimeter was installed, I went through all 378 stand legs to look for high spots. And there was a handful I knew there would be, so that I just went ahead and took my Japanese handsaw and I just cut those tops off. I gotta say, for building the canopy and just doing little jobs like this, if you don't have one of these in your toolbox and you like woodworking, I would get one. You don't have to buy an expensive one. This was only like 30 bucks at Menards or something, but great tool for the job of just cutting. It's real low effort, easy to use, and I love this thing. So use that for the stand legs. It worked out perfectly. So I went through those stand legs. I then started a massive cleanup effort down here. And cleaning up my entire shop area here was a pretty big job. I hadn't done a proper cleanup since June of last year. And with building this big of a structure, I think I had 3 or 4 contractor bags full of sawdust and wood scraps and just other construction debris that needed to be thrown away. And that was also kind of getting into cleaning under the stand as well in preparation for the plywood top installation, which of course, shortly thereafter I got sick. I was down for about 5-6 days where I couldn't really do much. Now once I finished up cleanup underneath the whole stand, I went through with composite shims and checked all 378 stand legs again to make sure they all had good contact with the floor. I knew there was going to be a few of them where the floor was just so uneven that the 2x4 had some contact, but not full contact with the floor. So I just went ahead and added the composite shims in. There really wasn't that many of them needed, just a handful. I went back and I checked my stand alignment again because I had done quite a bit of work over a few weeks, just getting all the perimeter bracing installed, just getting that 2x6 perimeter installed, and I found everything was really nicely aligned. I didn't have any other corrections to make. I went ahead and started the plywood top installation. I will say the plywood top installation went pretty smooth. I did have one hiccup though that didn't cause a problem, but it was something I had to contend with, and that was I was taking the plywood sheets and running them long ways, and short ways, and long ways, and then short ways again, and I realized ripping off larger sections of the plywood long ways was actually equating to almost a half a sheet of plywood. When I got to the short L of the tank, I realized this, but it was something I was able to save without having to buy another sheet of plywood, because 6 inches overhanging around the whole perimeter don't have many fasteners in them, because they won't get any until the seal beam is installed to hold the glass in place. Therefore, with it not being as big of a structural element to holding the stand together, I went ahead and just used two 6-inch strips of plywood on either side of the tank there, just to allow me to get the full 13 feet of width. Overall, plywood went on real easy, didn't have any major problems, just sucked hauling 9 sheets of plywood down to the basement. But with that done, the stand top's completed. I'm ready to move on to aquarium bottom installation, which unfortunately requires 18 more sheets of plywood, and I've already unloaded it off the truck and have it upstairs in my house. So with the plywood in the house now, the next video update on the build is going to be the bottom installation. As always, if anyone has comments or questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I'll probably try to get out just a general aquarium system update soon. Overall, things are doing pretty well there, but I think it's about time for a video in that space as well. Thanks again for watching, everybody. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see updates on this massive build, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I don't put out updates very often, but I'm trying to get all the major steps of this build. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next video.